As a bassist, you want your playing to feel confident and effortless. But if you're struggling to play even one song without your hands cramping up, it starts to feel like all your years of practice have just been a complete waste of time. After 16 years of teaching bass professionally, I can show you one thing that most bass players never learn, and once it clicks, you can almost take it for granted that your practice will pay off, your hands will stay relaxed, and that you'll have total confidence every time you pick up the bass. Now, that might sound like a really overblown clickbaity style claim, but think about it this way. If you knew for a fact that every time you picked up the bass, your hands would perform with technical perfection, that they wouldn't build up any kind of tension or soreness or fatigue, and that you'd be able to play with complete fluency, you would have a lot more confidence in your ability as a bass player. So the keys to confidence really lie in developing your technique and finding all these pieces of missing information that have stopped you progressing over the years. And with this in mind, there's actually one skill that bassists really need to learn that sadly most don't. It unlocks massive levels of playing fluency, it hugely boosts your confidence, and it's all to do with your fretting hand's thumb. Now, this is something I go deeper into in my fretting hand workshop that's linked below, but here's the problem in a nutshell. A lot of bass players will debate about exactly what the best position for the fretting hand thumb is. But the trouble with this is that the idea of there being one specific thumb position that works is a bit of a half-truth. Obviously, everyone's hands are different. Some can relax with their thumb off to the side like this, but others will find it a bit painful. Some can have their thumb in the middle of the palm like this, but for others that creates a lot of tension. Now, the real reason why your hands are locking up isn't actually to do with your thumb position. It's to do with the way that the thumb muscles are engaged. You see, our hands all share the same physiology, and this shared physiology is almost like a secret rule book for avoiding tension and unlocking playing fluency. The bottom line is, if your fretting hand is cramping up when you play, the chances are you are violating one of these secret rules, and this is what has to change. So now let me show you one of these secret rules that once you learn it will stop your hands from cramping up, unlock massive levels of playing fluency, and give you total confidence in your playing. So what we're about to learn is something I call the rule of thumb and fingers. Now, the physiology behind it is that each of us in our hands have several sets of muscles. These different muscle groups move different parts of our hands. So for example, we have muscles that will move our fingers like this, and we have others that will move our thumb like this. However, what most bass players don't understand is that if you use these muscle groups in the wrong way, they actually start to undermine each other. And this instantly causes the tension that's building up and wrecking your playing. For example, try holding your hand up like this and moving your fingers with your fingers and thumb in their natural positions. It's really easy, it feels completely relaxed, and there's absolutely no tension. But if you move your thumb across to the middle of the palm like this, which by the way is the same position that a lot of bass players have it in when they play, and then try and move your fingers, you'll notice something very different. In this position, this thumb muscle feels tense. It now feels quite tight. It might even hurt a little. There's also some tension that creeps in across the back of the hand and maybe even in the center of the palm down here. Now, why is this happening? Because when you engage your thumb muscles like this and lock your thumb in the center of your palm like this, the two muscle groups that control your fingers and control your thumb are brought into conflict. They're fighting each other. And this conflict, rather than the thumb position itself, is the root cause of all these issues. So, how do you fix this conflict? Well, we need to find a middle ground. As bass players, we want our thumbs in this position, but we don't want the muscle conflict that comes from it. And here's how the rule of thumb and fingers that we mentioned before does exactly that. Rather than moving the whole thumb across like this, which locks it into place, bend it inwards following its natural path like this. You'll notice that there's almost no tension in your hand and that your fingers can actually still move with a lot of fluency and a lot of freedom. All you have to do now is transfer that hand position across to the neck of the bass. And instead of locking your thumb in behind the palm like this, imagine you're actually bending it into the neck of the bass like this. Now, the position of the thumb might look the same, but to the trained eye, you can see that the actual trajectory of the thumb is totally different. And this means that the muscles are now engaging in a way that completely avoids this conflict. This is the rule of thumb and fingers, but now that you've learnt it, you actually have a completely new problem. If your end goal is to become better at playing music, what should you actually practice so that you can apply a technique like this? Well, recently, Tom, who is a private student of mine, was in exactly this position. So next, I'm going to show you the practice routine I gave him, because if you want to apply this technique and become a more confident bass player, you really need to be practicing in the same way that I showed Tom. So Tom had a really common problem. In theory, he understood how to use this rule. He could even use it to play some exercises really well, but as soon as he started to apply it to a real song, his old bad habits crept back in, and so did the tension and soreness in his fretting hand. This meant that Tom's playing had plateaued, which was incredibly frustrating. But despite this frustration, the fix was actually incredibly simple. I couldn't just give him exercises because those wouldn't push his technique far enough, but I also couldn't give him complete songs because that was a step too far. It was too overwhelming. Instead, we took the same approach that I teach in my fretting hand workshop, which was to give Tom etudes. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, an etude is like a halfway house between a real song and an exercise. So I gave Tom a short groove-based etude that was specifically designed to test his ability to use this fretting hand rule. But this etude also had enough space built in specifically to give Tom time to pause and to check in with his technique and correct any mistakes he was making in real time. All of this made Tom's practice much more intentional, and it ensured that he would actually get some results for the work that he was putting in. Now, it didn't take long for Tom to get comfortable with this new rule, and once he did, that was almost like stones that caused the avalanche. Because once he saw how to use this with real music, his confidence grew, and he started seeing how he could use this rule to play songs that were out of his reach before. The point here is that the keys to confidence as a bass player are twofold. One is to get your technique in shape, and two is to apply it to real music so that it develops in the right way. This is how you step out on stage with total confidence in your technique and your ability as a bass player. However, now you do have a new problem to fix. Having total confidence in your technique and in your playing isn't just about your fretting hand. You also need to learn how to use your plucking hand well so that the two can work together. And just like the fretting hand, the plucking hand has its own set of unique secret rules. And to save you years of wasted practice time in trying to figure out all these rules for yourself, I've actually done a video breaking down what they are and how to apply them. So click up here and watch that video next.